Well, that might have to go down as one of our worst intros ever. The platform updated. I tried to set something up. It cut from the intro, went right to you looking wide-eyed and lack of all things. So, whatever. We're in. We're started. We're live. UFC Fight Night. Erceg. Here we go.
That's so funny. I had no idea. I was just like making a funny face because I thought the video was rolling. Yeah, what's kicking everybody? We are back for another episode of Picking Fights. That was ridiculous. It also says we've been live for 3.5 minutes too. So um, that's wild because I think we just started. But
Just started.
yeah, but anyways, we're here to talk about UFC Fight Night, Brandon Moreno versus Steve Erceg, taking place in, I believe, Mexico City, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Arena CDMX. And we're going to talk about the main card today. Picks, predictions, what we think is going to go down. So I don't know if you want to roll out the main card clip, see how that works out for us.
Yeah, let's take two. Here we go. All right. Now we got back to a little bit of normalcy. Ronaldo Rodriguez, Lazy Boy, Kevin Barajas, El Galgo Negro. No disrespect. Which way you leaning in this one?
I'm leaning towards Rodriguez. He's a minus 150 favorite. He's a pretty heavy favorite based on the Tapology voting, but he has a win over Ode Osborne. He got that done pretty. It was a nice clinic that he put on. It was a unanimous decision victory. He's got a lot of wins in the UFC so far, but one thing to keep in mind as well is that this fight is taking place in Mexico. He hails from Mexico. He is Mexican. He's going up against Kevin Borjas, who's, pretty uninspired so far. And yeah, he's the younger guy. I'm gonna roll with Rodriguez here in this fight. Who you got, Tom?
I'm gonna have to agree with you. I'm going with Rodriguez there. Like you said, he's a little bit younger. 25 versus 27. I don't know that that makes too much of a difference here, but you look at some of his wins. He's got a win over Dennis Bodendar via submission, a rear naked choke, decision victory over Ode Osborne. Two losses, although they, not the worst loss against Joshua Van for Kevin Barajas. Plus 125 is the line for him. He's out of Peru, not a Mexico City card, fighting a Mexican. I don't like that matchup for him. And on top of it, 92% on Tapology is what the people are voting on. So with all that being said, I think it's going to lend my pick to go in Ronald Rodriguez, Lazy Boy. I think he's a little bit more versatile. Look at those ears. I think he's probably got a little bit of a better ground game too. And, when you have a guy who was knocked out 10 months ago, I'm not expecting to have necessary chin issues, but hey, you have a decision win, submission win, some knockouts before getting into the UFC. I'll go with Ronaldo Rodriguez to get it done to kick off the main card.
Yeah, Borjas, no wins in the UFC so far. What do we got next?
David Martinez, Black Spartan, Simon Oliveira, coming off two losses. 3 years ago, Tony Gravely by decision. Was knocked out by Daniel Marcos, knees to the body 2 years ago. 33 years old, the Brazilian, plus 310 is the line. Going up against the guy making his UFC debut in the Contender Series, won a unanimous decision victory there 5 months ago in the UFC now. Not sure if he was awarded a UFC contract on that Contender Series show, but he is minus 400 here, like you see there. Mexican guy, 26 years old. Pretty unknown at this point, but Tapology and Vegas is aligned, generally speaking. That's a good bet to make. Plus, you got the Mexican fighting in Mexico. I'm not sure that there's any particular sharp angles on this that we want to hit, but yeah, I'm going with David Martinez to get this one done.
Yeah, I think he's probably going to get it done by either knockout or decision. He was a little bit more reserved in his Contender Series fight, but leading up to that, lots and lots of knockouts, and his opponent losing his most recent fight by knockout. So I'm going to go with David Martinez as well in this fight. I like the guy. Hometown crowd, home favorite. So yeah, give me David Martinez. What do we got next, Tom?
Raul Rosas Jr. making a debut. Finally, a guy with a name here. El Nino Problema. Practicing my Spanish here. Vince Morales, Vendetta. Another guy coming in off 2 losses, 16-9, 34 years old, plus 250, fighting out of the United States, fighting out of Syndicate MMA. Raul Rosas, minus 310, fighting out of the United States. Obviously, you see the sombrero there of Mexican heritage. You look at some of his last fights, he's got that loss to C-Rod a little over a year ago, but he's been active, knocked out Terrence Mitchell, submitted Ricky Tercios, and had a back and forth fight in which he won against Arichi Lang, which I think ages pretty well for Raul Rosas. You like to see him getting better at still only 20 years old. He's got a lot to prove, but he's improving every time we see him in the cage here. 92% on Tapology is what the people are voting with, minus 310, Mexican born. A lot of this logic is kind of repeating itself. I think he's getting to be a pretty well-rounded fighter. And for a guy in Vince Morales, who had a decision loss a little over a month ago to Elijah Smith, he's coming in on fairly short notice. Another decision loss against Taylor Lapilus. Some of this stuff, he doesn't have a UFC victory. He's got to win on Ryzen via decision, submission via Darstroke on Tough Enough, and a submission via Peruvian necktie by Hunter Azure or from Hunter Azure. I think if you're going to be a grappler going up against Raul Rosas, it's a pretty challenging avenue, pretty challenging path to victory here. So for those reasons, I'm going with Raul Rosas to get it done, maybe by submission, maybe by just picking up that decision victory. He's fought to a decision more recently, so we know he can do that, and he's a little bit more versed with it. So I feel safe going with Raul Rosas to get this one done in Mexico City.
Chiwiwis. Yeah, I'm also going with Raul Rosas Jr. He's going to get it done in front of the home crowd and have a fun moment on the microphone. I think he's going to get it done by submission too. He's a finisher, like when it really suits him. He's kind of got like a similar trajectory to Paddy Pimblett right now, in my opinion, where Paddy was a regional guy, fought on like more regional cards for a while. Been doing that, fighting on mostly the Mexican cards so far, and winning in really fun ways in front of his hometown crowd and fans. So I'm going with Raul Rosas. I think he's going to get it done by either submission or, just out grapple him to a decision. So give me Raul Rosas Jr. What do we got?
Kelvin Gastelum, Joe Body Bags Pfeiffer. This is going to be a good one. Sorry about that. But where are you going? Where's your head at with this one?
Well, Kelvin Gastelum is Mexican. And again, we're going to say it again. He's fighting in Mexico. But I'm going to go with Joe Pyfer here. Kelvin Gastelum is a plus 400 heavy underdog. That's what he opened as, at least. I'm sure it's moved a little bit, at least. Minus 550 for Joe Pyfer. Joe Pyfer's got seriously heavy hands. Kelvin's going to stand there and trade with him. I don't think that's going to be a smart move against Joe Pyfer. I think Joe Pyfer is going to land some heavy, heavy shots on Kelvin Gastelum early in the fight. And I think he's going to knock him out, honestly. I don't know how soon into the fight, but Kelvin's going to want to stand and trade, and he just doesn't have the power to put Joe out. And Joe can knock anybody out. So give me Joe Pyfer. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think Joe Pyfer is the guy to get this one done. Let me just add the thing. Here we go. Our platform updated since last time we got on here, so bear with us while we figure out some of these new features. But yeah, Kelvin Gastelum taking on Joe Pyfer. He does have that one loss on his UFC record here to Jack Hermanson, in which I think Jack Hermanson just gets credit for out techniquing we're out strategizing Joe Pyfer, and that's not what I expect from Kelvin Gastelum. I think Kelvin Gastelum goes in there and ends up throwing down with some guys, and against higher level competition, that's why we see Kelvin Gastelum not really make that jump to the next level. At 33 years old here, I don't expect him to. He's a 5'9" guy fighting at what's the weight here? 185, fighting at middleweight. I don't expect him unless he decides to actually start fighting his actual weight, which might be closer to lightweight. And at 33 years old, I don't expect that to happen here. So Joe Pyfer is going to go out there, take advantage of the reach advantage, and put it on Kelvin Gastelum. And yeah, I expect maybe a first round knockout. If not, I'm going with the second round. I just think Piper's got too much power in his hands, as you see there, minus 550, 86% on Tapology. Pretty straightforward here. Nothing shocking, nothing crazy, and certainly no against the grain picks from me here. So I'm with body bags. I look forward to seeing what he does in his career. And I hate to say that Kelvin Gastelum is going to be kind of a stepping stone for him, but I think that's what it's going to be. Speaking of guys who are somewhat gatekeepers, Drew Dober taking on Manuel Torres, El Loco coming off a loss. Both these guys coming off a couple losses here, near even. What do you think? What are your thoughts on this fight?
I wish I could go with Drew Dober, but he's coming off of a couple of brutal losses in a row and one win in between, but he's just been getting knocked out a lot lately. Drew Dober is a do or die kind of guy. He has been that way since he came to the UFC from, I think, Pride back in the day. And it doesn't mean that he's down and out, but he's always been swing for the fences. And if you don't kill me, I'm killing you. He's been, so many fights throughout the years. Terrence McKinney, just you remember all these battles that he's been through. I don't know if his chin is going to hold up against, a younger guy who's not really as through the ringer as Drew Dober has been. Drew Dober's crossed over to that 36 line. Once you get past 35, that's when you really start to see a decline. He got knocked out bad by Gene Silva the last time around. That's a guy who has heavy hands. He's a murderer. He's knocked out just about, I think, everybody that he's fought in the UFC. The Fight Nerds are undefeated so far. And on the other hand, you have Manuel Torres, who got knocked out by Ignacio Bahamondes. And that was 6 months ago. That's enough time to, get it back together, I think. But and Ignacio Bahamondes is also the real deal too. He's got some serious striking as well. But I think Manuel Torres just is the younger guy. I think that his chin's going to be able to withstand a little bit more punishment. And the people on Tapology are going against me, but I'm going to go with Manuel Torres here. It's I think that he's going to find a shot that puts Drew Dober out first before Drew Dober puts him out. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, I wish you hadn't mentioned that the people on Tapology are going with Drew Dober, because I was going to say that I'm going against the grain here, picking against you, and I'm going to go with Drew Dober. It's not really what my gut is telling me to do. It's kind of something that I think is just aligns a little bit better. We haven't seen Drew Dober go on too many slides. Technically, that loss 8 months ago was from a cut. He's got the decision loss to Renato Moicano. So where his chin was able to hold up there. He does have solid takedown defense. That comes into play. Got the win over Ricky Glenn to separate that loss to Matt Frivola. And obviously the win over Bobby Green makes me think that I wasn't 2 years ago. So he was before that 35 age line. So I don't know. Something about this fight, looking at it, I could see it being a total slugfest. That's not really a crazy prediction, but I could see Drew Dober maybe getting some of the better shots. He's used to these slugfests before. Coming off a loss as Manuel Torres might get a little bit too crazy out there, a little bit too wild. Drew Dober might be able to beat up to the body, but let's face it, both of these guys, they're in the co-main event. They're not necessarily co-main event fighters per se. So they're going to go out there in front of the Mexico City crowd, totally amped up, looking to put on a show. And I don't know. At minus 105 versus minus 115, the guys at Tapology, 59%, have Dober getting it done by knockout. I don't know if we're going to see a knockout. I would say that these guys end up going to decision, it being maybe one of the most exciting fights on the card. And just because Joe Dober's done it before, I'm going to give him the slight edge even at the advanced age of 36, to go ahead and get his hand raised there. So that's where I am with with that. I got something in my throat, but why don't you kick us off? Talk about this next one. I'll go see if I can drink some water or something.
All right. Main event time: Brandon Moreno versus Steve Erceg. I'm particularly pumped for this one. I'm a big fan of Steve Erceg. That was because of his performance against Alejandro Pantoja. I thought he put up a really good fight until that final round. He lost the last round because he went for a takedown, I think, when he should have kept striking. I can't remember the exact scenario, but his coaches told him he was down a huge amount. And that led to him, instead of like looking for a finish, it just kind of led to him like giving in, whereas he should have just kept fighting hard. This line's not super crazy. Brandon Moreno minus 195 favorite, plus 165 for Steve Erceg, the underdog here. But the people on Tapology, as you can see on screen, are very heavily for Brandon Moreno at 82%. He is Mexican, fighting in Mexico. Mexican native, takes a lot of pride in that. I'm really excited to see what kind of custom shorts he has this week. I hope they do something cool, to celebrate his heritage. And Steve Erceg, on the other hand, also coming off of a loss to Kai Kara-France. MMA math would tell you that, because he lost to Kai Kara-France by finish and Brandon Moreno finished Kai Kara, that, just automatic Brandon Moreno finish. I do think, unfortunately, Brandon Moreno is going to win this fight. He's a better, well-rounded fighter. Steve Erceg, he kind of just had his moment against Pantoja. He's cool and everything. He's got a fun personality, but I don't know if he really has it in him to hang in there with like the top dogs in this division, like the Brandon Morenos and, guys like that. So I'm going to have to go with Brandon Moreno here. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Steve Erceg, like, he caught Alexandre Pantoja a little bit off guard with how good he was in that fight. I can't remember if that was something that was scheduled or if the division had been cleared out, if it was short notice, or what the exact parameters were. But I feel like Steve Erceg might have peaked there, caught Pantoja by surprise with how sneaky good he was. And then after that, people have been kind of put on notice. You can see here he's got the loss to Pantoja that we're talking about, and then knocked out by Kai Kara-France. I believe I even picked him in that fight. I might pick Kai Kara. Who can remember, 7 months ago? But Brandon Moreno, his 2 losses, both split decisions, both very close fights against some of the best in the that the division has to offer in the world, honestly. So I think Brandon Moreno is just a little bit better of a higher IQ fighter. He's been in this world and he's fought this type of competition before, so he's going to have more experience. I just think Brandon Moreno is far better positioned to get this win here. Having been the champion before, he's been there, done that. He's fighting in front of his Mexican heritage, in front of his crowd, his people. I don't think there's anything that can take Brandon Moreno away from getting this one done, aside from me having jinxed him right there, right now, saying nothing can make it take it away from him. But he's a little bit older, but still in his prime. And you can see on Tapology, 82% are with Moreno. I just think he's got a higher fight IQ. I think he's solid on the feet. Steve Erceg does have a good low kick, but Brandon Moreno's got sneaky good reaction time. And, he's always picking up a front foot and being able to, put himself into good positions. He's a sneaky good grappler too. You can't forget about that. He's just very, very well-rounded. And I think a lot of times people forget about him because he's just not very vocal. He's not very exciting in the sense of like his fights, number one. I mean, he does have brawls and scraps, but he needs a partner for that, which I think Erceg could be. But he's not exciting from the perspective of him getting up and being at a press conference and really like getting everybody hyped up to watch his fight. So I think sometimes he can fly under the radar, but he is extremely good, and I expect him to showcase that this weekend and go out there and get the win.
Yeah, he plays with Legos and stuff like that, but and like Funko Pops, he's not really the most exciting fighter, like you mentioned, and at least like on the microphone. He did have that one moment. I forget. What was it, against Davis and Figueiredo when he first won the belt and he was going nuts. That was cool. And then they had the quadrilogy. So he's fought in the main event under these bright lights like numerous times. That's not to say Pantoja hasn't now at this point, but main event stuff is normal for Brandon Moreno at this point.
Right.
All right, you want to hit the pick rundown?
Yes, sir. All right, you go.
I'm going with Ronaldo Rodriguez over Kevin Borjas, David Martinez over Simon Oliveira, Raul Rosas Jr. over Vince Morales, Joe Pfeiffer over Calvin Gastelum, Manuel Torres over Drew Dober, Brandon Moreno over Steve Erceg.
And I will be going with uh, Ronaldo Rodriguez to get the win. I'm going with David Martinez to get the win here. Going with Raul Rosas Jr., Joe Pfeiffer. Deviate from you a little bit with Drew Dober, and then getting back on board with Brandon Moreno getting this one done this weekend. How do you feel about the card overall?
I like it. I'm excited for it. There are a few good prelim fights, but this is definitely main card heavy. They stacked it up with a lot of star power towards the end there, so I'm excited for it. It's kind of funny looking back on the start of this episode, though. I look schizophrenic when it first opens up. I'm just sitting here like this. Like, if nobody's ever seen this before and they just clicked on that, the first like 30 seconds is just me staring creepily. Don't go back to the beginning of this episode if you're just tuning in now. But if you are tuning in, please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps us out big time. Am I missing anything, Tom?
No, we have the banner below. Follow us on X and Instagram. Like you said, make sure you like, comment, drop us a note. Tell us what you think of our picks, what you're looking forward to for both this card and the next card, and make sure you check us out on Spotify as well. 21 minutes, one of our most efficient episodes ever. We agreed on basically everything, and fight card starts at 4 p.m. Eastern time, so nice little midday, early afternoon card for your viewing, for your ocular enjoyment. So excited to have the UFC back, and we're rolling and grinding here. UFC every week.
Yeah, it's a good day for two TVs. March Madness is on as well. Enjoy your weekend. Later.